All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into the world of, well, Elon Musk. You know the name, you've seen the headlines, but I think you'll be surprised by what we found.
That's right. Get ready for some serious myth-busting because we are going way beyond those viral tweets and those flashy Tesla reveals.
Exactly. That's what I love about these deep dives. You unearth these unexpected nuggets of info that totally change how you see someone. For example, do you know that Musk wasn't born in, Silicon Valley or something?
Nope, not even close. He was actually born in Pretoria, South Africa.
South Africa, wow. That adds a whole new dimension to his story.
Absolutely. Imagine growing up in apartheid-era South Africa, then having the audacity to dream of, colonizing Mars. Talk about a contrast.
It's mind-blowing. But even as a kid, there were hints of that ambition. Apparently, he was a voracious reader, devouring books like Lord of the Rings and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
His reading list was basically a roadmap for his future ventures. It's all about pushing boundaries, exploring the unknown, creating new worlds.
Exactly. And it wasn't just reading. The guy was coding, too. Sold his first computer game at 12 years old for $500. I was barely mastering Oregon Trail at that age.
Talk about an early bloomer. That entrepreneurial spirit really took off when he moved to North America. First to Canada, then to the US.
To study at the University of Pennsylvania, right?
Yep. But even then, he was hustling, throwing house parties to help pay tuition. Can you imagine Elon Musk as your party promoter?
That's a wild thought. But get this, he almost took the traditional route, almost enrolled at Stanford for a graduate program.
But then dropped out almost immediately.
Classic Musk move, right? Why bother with school when you've got the world to conquer?
Well, the internet was exploding at the time, the late 90s. Musk saw the potential and decided to dive headfirst into the chaos.
Enter Zip2, his first big venture.
An online city guide, basically an early version of Yelp.
The birth of the Silicon Valley legend. But I bet it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it?
Oh, absolutely not. We're talking sleeping in the office, coding all night, navigating the wild west of the early internet. He even had some issues with his immigration status at one point.
Wow, talk about pressure.
Yeah.
But it all paid off in the end. Comeback by Zip2 for a cool $307 million.
Not bad for a first exit.
Definitely a confidence booster.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people forget about Zip2 because what comes next is the company that really launched him into the stratosphere, PayPal.
Of course. But it wasn't called PayPal at first, was it?
Nope, it started as X.com, one of the first online banks with federal insurance.
It's kind of funny, his friends even joked that the name sounded like, a website for something a bit more adult.
I can imagine those early brainstorming sessions. But names aside, the journey to PayPal wasn't exactly a walk in the park, was it?
Merging with Confinity was a roller coaster ride. Internal power struggles, Musk getting ousted as CEO. It was messy.
But then, ultimate redemption. eBay buys PayPal for $1.5 billion.
Suddenly he had the resources to chase even bigger dreams.
And speaking of dreams, we got to talk about the company that truly embodies Musk's out there vision, SpaceX. I mean, space travel, that's like something out of a comic book.
It's more than just a business for him, it's a philosophy. He genuinely believes that humanity needs to become a multi-planetary species, not just stuck here on Earth.
That's a whole other level of thinking. Yeah, but I bet those early days at SpaceX were anything but smooth.
Brutal is an understatement. 3 failed launches of the Falcon 1 rocket, one after the other. He poured millions of his own money into it. They almost went bankrupt.
It's easy to forget that part, right? We only see the successes now.
Exactly. But then finally, in 2008, the Falcon 1 reaches orbit. It's one of those against all odds moments that defines a career.
A turning point for SpaceX. And then, what really blew my mind, reusable rockets. Landing the first stage of a Falcon 9 on a drone ship, it seems impossible.
It's the kind of innovation that totally disrupts an industry. Suddenly, spaceflight becomes more affordable, more frequent, more ambitious missions become possible.
And let's not forget the pure showmanship of that Falcon Heavy launch with his Tesla Roadster on board, David Bowie playing in the background. The guy's got a flair for the dramatic.
It was definitely a statement. And then there's Starship, their next big project, designed to take us to Mars.
Mars. It's incredible. But I think what really solidified SpaceX's place in history was becoming the first private company to send humans to the International Space Station.
It's a new era of space exploration. But Musk doesn't stop there. He's also tackling global internet access with Starlink.
Yeah, Starlink. Internet beamed down from space through a constellation of satellites. I mean, it sounds crazy when you say it out loud.
It is crazy, but it's also working. Think about the situation in Ukraine. When Russia invaded, Starlink was crucial in keeping the country connected to the world.
A real lifeline.
Yeah.
But it also raises questions about the ethics of controlling such a vast network. Space debris, light pollution for astronomers, Musk's stance on free speech on the platform.
Right. It's a reminder that even with the best intentions, technology can have unintended consequences.
Okay, so we've talked about space travel and global internet, but we can't forget about Tesla. Musk's mission to revolutionize the car industry with electric vehicles.
Tesla is all about accelerating the transition to sustainable energy through electric cars, solar panels, battery technology. They want to change the world.
And they have, in a lot of ways. They've made electric cars cool, desirable, and they've forced the entire car industry to play catch-up.
Absolutely. But they've also faced criticism. Musk's intense work culture, accusations of unfair labor practices, his management style.
Right. There are always multiple sides to the Elon Musk story.
Exactly. And speaking of pushing boundaries, we have to talk about Neuralink, brain-machine interfaces. That's straight out of science fiction.
I still can't wrap my head around it. But then they released that video of a monkey playing Pong with its mind using a Neuralink implant. And it's like, okay, this is real.
It's incredible, but also a little unsettling. And there are the ethical considerations. Animal testing, the potential for misuse, it's heavy stuff.
It really makes you think about the future we're creating. And then you've got the Boring Company, focused on, well, digging tunnels.
Yeah, Musk's solution to traffic congestion is to go underground. Not quite as glamorous as space travel, but hey, maybe it'll work.
They did complete a tunnel under the Las Vegas Convention Center.
But other projects have been scrapped. It's a mixed bag so far.
Okay, take a deep breath, because now we're entering the world of Twitter, or as Musk renamed it, X. He's always been vocal online, but buying the entire platform, that's next level.
It was a wild ride. First, he becomes the largest shareholder. Then he makes a bid to take over the company. And the aftermath. Mass layoffs, policy changes every other day.
The whole platform felt like it was on the verge of imploding. And his relationship with advertisers? Not great. Didn't he tell them to, and I quote, go F themselves?
Yeah, that didn't exactly win over Madison Avenue. It's classic Musk, though. No filter, no holding back.
Well, it certainly keeps things interesting. But with all this talk of companies and technology, it's easy to forget that there's a person behind it all.
What a person. Musician, father of many, meme lord extraordinaire. And it's hard to keep up.
Right. Like, where do we even begin? Let's start with the musician part. Remember that rap song he released, R.I.P. Harambe?
Oh yeah, the one about the gorilla. It was surprisingly catchy for a Billionaire's rap song. And then there was the EDM track. He even sang on that one.
It's like he has to try everything.
Wait.
Let's be real. His personal life has been pretty dramatic, even for a billionaire. Multiple marriages, high-profile relationships, whole bunch of kids.
And those unique baby names. Remember XAA12? It broke the internet.
It's like they were trying to create a name that no one could pronounce. And his relationship with Grimes. Talk about a roller coaster.
Custody battles, accusations of evading legal papers. It was all very public and messy.
Yeah. And in the midst of all that, he also openly talked about having Asperger's syndrome.
That was a big deal. Sharing that on Saturday Night Live, it helped to destigmatize the condition.
It also gave us a little more insight into his way of thinking, maybe helped to explain some of his eccentric behavior.
Like challenging Mark Zuckerberg to a cage fight.
Oh yeah, that was bizarre. They were actually training for it.
It's hard to tell if he was serious or not.
And then there's the whole ketamine thing. Is it for depression or is it recreational?
The rumors and conflicting reports just add to the mystery. Okay, so we've talked about Musk, the entrepreneur, the innovator, the meme lord, even the musician. But now it's time to get a bit more serious. With all this fame and fortune, there have been some legal and ethical challenges along the way.
Definitely. And we'll dive into those in the next part of our deep dive.
So stay tuned as we explore the more controversial aspects of Elon Musk's life and career.
It's going to get interesting. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Elon Musk. Remember last time when we were talking about his companies, his crazy ambition?
Yeah, like the guy wants to colonize Mars.
Exactly. But we only scratched the surface. There's a whole other side to Musk that often gets overlooked, The musician, the father, the meme lord.
Right, because behind those rockets and electric cars, there's an actual person, right, with quirks and contradictions and all that.
Totally. So let's start with the musician thing. Remember that rap song he released, R.I.P. Harambe?
Oh yeah, the one about the gorilla.
It was like this surprise internet hit. Who knew the CEO of SpaceX had bars? I know, right? And then there was that EDM song. He even sang on that one.
Don't doubt Irvine. It's kind of catchy, actually.
Yeah, I'll admit, it's stuck in my head now. But okay, let's talk about his personal life, which has been pretty eventful, to say the least.
Multiple marriages, high-profile relationships, a whole bunch of kids.
And those unique baby names. X, he, she, anyone.
It's like they were trying to come up with the most unpronounceable name possible. And don't forget his relationship with Grimes, the musician.
Yeah, that was a whole saga. Custody battles, accusations of dodging legal papers. It was all over the tabloids.
It makes you wonder how someone with like a million companies can even find time for all that.
Right. But in the middle of all that personal drama, Musk also publicly talked about having Asperger's.
He revealed it on Saturday Night Live, which was a pretty big deal. It helped to bring more awareness to the condition.
It also, gave us a little more understanding of him. Maybe helped explain some of his more unconventional behavior, you could say.
Like challenging Mark Zuckerberg to a cage fight.
Oh yeah, that was totally out of left field.
They were actually training for it.
It's hard to know if he was being serious or just trolling everyone.
Right, and then there's the whole ketamine thing.
For depression or recreational use?
It's a bit murky. He's denied some of the wilder rumors, but, it just adds to the intrigue. Okay, but let's get a little more serious for a minute. We need to talk about Musk's political views, because they've been pretty front and center lately, especially since he bought Twitter.
Yeah, he's definitely become more vocal about his politics.
I think he's aligned himself pretty strongly with the right wing, becoming a big supporter of Donald Trump, donating to his campaigns.
He was one of Trump's biggest donors, right?
Yep. And then there's Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor. Musk seems to be a fan.
It's definitely alienated some of his, more liberal fans. Some people accuse him of using his platforms to push right-wing talking points.
Yeah, like when he reinstated those previously banned accounts on Twitter.
Right, and pushing certain narratives.
Yeah.
It's definitely a sensitive issue.
But it's worth noting that Musk still says he's a moderate, even though, his actions might suggest otherwise.
It's another one of those contradictions that makes him so fascinating. And it's not just U.S. politics either. He weighs in on everything, like the war in Ukraine, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Remember that peace plan he proposed for Ukraine?
Oh yeah, the one where Ukraine basically just gives up territory to Russia. That didn't go over well, to say the least.
A lot of people accused him of basically repeating Russian propaganda.
It's a complicated situation, and his involvement definitely stirred things up even more. And speaking of complicated, what about his relationship with China? He walks a fine line there.
He does. Tesla has that massive factory in Shanghai. China's a huge market for him.
But their political system is so different from ours, and their approach to, free speech.
Yeah, it's a tough balancing act. He's been criticized for putting profits ahead of human rights concerns.
Like when he suggested that Taiwan should become part of China?
Yeah. That didn't go over well with a lot of people. Okay, but shifting gears again for a sec, because Musk is also really into this idea of transhumanism.
Transhumanism, that sounds intense.
It's like this movement that believes in using technology to enhance human capabilities, overcoming our limitations.
So superintelligence, immortality, merging with machines.
Exactly. And some people see his companies, like Neuralink, as steps toward that.
Wow. It raises some pretty big ethical questions, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, what does it even mean to be human anymore? It's a whole philosophical debate. And while we're on the topic of future tech, we can't forget about artificial intelligence.
AI is everywhere these days. But Musk has been sounding the alarm about its dangers for years. He's even compared it to nuclear weapons.
He's worried that AI could become so advanced that it surpasses human intelligence and, takes over.
The classic robot uprising scenario. But how realistic is that?
It's a big debate. Some experts think he's overreacting. Others think his concerns are valid.
Well, Musk definitely seems to think it's a real threat. He was a co-founder of OpenAI, but then he left because of disagreements about their approach. And now he's starting his own AI company, XAI.
It's like he's both fascinated by AI and terrified of it at the same time.
It's that whole, with great power comes great responsibility thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. His music, his personal life, his politics, his transhumanist views, his thoughts on AI. It's a lot.
And we haven't even touched on his ongoing legal battles or the controversy surrounding Neuralink.
Which is exactly what we'll be getting into in the final part of our deep dive.
So stick around because it's only going to get more interesting.
Welcome back to the final part of our Elon Musk deep dive. I gotta say, after all this, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the guy.
Yeah, it's like he's this force of nature, just constantly pushing boundaries, breaking things, stirring up controversy.
But along the way, he's also achieved some pretty incredible things. I mean, you can't deny his impact.
Oh, absolutely. He's revolutionized multiple industries, sparked conversations about the future of technology.
Right, but all that disruption, all that pushing the limits, it inevitably leads to some, well, bumps in the road.
Definitely. And for Musk, those bumps often take the shape of legal battles, ethical dilemmas, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Like, you can't make waves without creating some ripples, and Musk's ripples tend to be tsunami-sized.
Good analogy.
So let's dive into some of those choppy waters, and I think a good place to start is with his, let's call it, complicated relationship with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Oh yeah, the SEC. They've had their fair share of run-ins with Musk.
Remember back in 2018, that whole funding secured tweet about taking Tesla private?
How could we forget? It sent Tesla's stock price on a wild ride. Investors were freaking out.
And the SEC was not happy.
Not at all. They accused him of misleading investors, and he ended up having to step down as Tesla's chairman, pay a big fine.
Yeah. Expensive tweet. But that wasn't the end of the SEC saga, was it?
Nope. Just last year, they sued him again, this time for refusing to testify in an investigation.
He claimed he was being harassed.
But a judge didn't buy it and ordered him to cooperate.
So, yeah, I think it's safe to say that Musk doesn't exactly love regulatory bodies.
He seems to view rules and regulations as, more like guidelines than actual rules.
Speaking of pushing the limits, remember that massive compensation package he got from Tesla?
Oh yeah, the $55 billion one. It raised a lot of eyebrows.
A judge even called it an unfathomable sum and ruled that it should be canceled.
Musk was not happy about that, to say the least.
He actually went on Twitter to rant about the state of Delaware where Tesla is incorporated.
But the judge's ruling did raise some valid concerns, right? About corporate governance, about whether Musk's interests were aligned with Tesla's shareholders. It's a lot of money, even for someone who's, changing the world.
Okay, so we've talked about the SEC, his compensation, but we also need to address the more serious allegations against Neuralink, those animal cruelty accusations.
Right. The Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, they filed a complaint accusing Neuralink of violating the Animal Welfare Act.
There were reports of botched surgeries on monkeys, inadequate care, unnecessary deaths.
It's pretty disturbing stuff.
And it triggered a federal investigation. Now, Musk has defended Neuralink, said they're committed to animal welfare, but still, it's definitely cast a shadow over the company.
It's a reminder that even when you're pursuing these groundbreaking technologies, you can't just ignore ethical boundaries. Innovation shouldn't come at the cost of animal suffering.
It's a tough balance for sure. But, all these legal challenges, the ethical controversies, they haven't really slowed Musk down, have they?
Not really, no. He seems to thrive on this kind of stuff, just keeps pushing forward, launching new ventures, saying provocative things. It's hard to deny his impact, even if you disagree with him.
Right. He's done things that seemed impossible. Revolutionized space travel, accelerated the adoption of electric cars.
And he forces us to think about the future in new ways.
But he's also incredibly polarizing. People either love him or hate him, it seems like.
Yeah, it's true. Some see him as a visionary, a genius, a modern-day Thomas Edison who's going to save the world.
Others see him as, a reckless billionaire, narcissist who's more interested in his own ego than anything else.
It's interesting because he's been praised for his innovation, his drive, his willingness to challenge the status quo, but then he's also been criticized for his management style, his treatment of employees,
his political views, his sometimes erratic behavior.
Yeah, it's all part of the Elon Musk puzzle.
So the big question is, what will his legacy be? What will people say about him 50 years from now?
That's a tough one. He's such a complex figure, full of contradictions. He's a brilliant engineer, a savvy businessman, a master of self-promotion.
But he can also be impulsive, insensitive, kind of a bull in a china shop sometimes.
His impact on the world is undeniable, but whether that impact will ultimately be positive or negative, that's still up for debate.
It's a fascinating story, and it's still being written.
Exactly.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Elon Musk, I think the big takeaway is that he forces us to confront some really important questions.
Questions about technology, about innovation, about the power of wealth, about the future of humanity.
It's not just about him, it's about all of us. What kind of world are we creating? And what role do we want technology to play in that world?
It's something we should all be thinking about.
I know I'll be thinking about it a lot more after all this. So, that's our deep dive into Elon Musk. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a wild ride.
And remember, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.